video of Pierre Poilievre kind of talking about Justin Trudeau's quote unquote utopia. So let's get on top of that and then we'll get started here.
I always find it interesting when the media comes to me and says, Justin Trudeau has promised a utopia. Are you going to remove his utopia if you get elected? Well, let's see this utopia first. So far, it has, the word utopia, ironically, in ancient Greek means no place. And no place has Justin Trudeau followed through on any of his promises. Justin Trudeau is not worth the cost, the crime, and corruption. And we will replace him after the carbon tax election with a conservative government that will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? I mean, Pierre Poilievre always kind of exposes Trudeau. That's nothing new here, but it's again, no place, nowhere. That's exactly where people like Trudeau. No place, nowhere. His support is dwindling. The other thing I wanted to show you guys was a video I have here. It's a 13-minute video, so I'm not going to play the whole thing. But I just wanted to cover some approval ratings for Justin Trudeau. And I don't think that if he sees this, he's going to like it very much. Knows full well. Just waiting for this to load up here. All right. So I'm just going to play the first little bit of this video.
Well, as we reported on Thursday, the Angus Reid Institute released details of a new study this week, and it doesn't look very good for Canada's main party leaders. Aggregating both positive and negative impressions of Jagmeet Singh, Justin Trudeau, and Pierre Poilievre, and this is the net result. Negative impressions across the board, with the Institute saying there has never been a time when leaders of all three parties simultaneously turned Canadians off to such an extent. Well, to talk about this, we're now joined by Tonda McCharles, Ottawa Bureau Chief for the Toronto Star, Joël-Denis Bellevance, Ottawa Bureau.
That's a combined disapproval rate for the Liberal parties of 50%, by the way. That is, I mean, it makes me laugh. It's so funny to see that huge drop from the Liberal Party. I enjoy it. It's about goddamn.
Bureau Chief for La Presse, and Christy Kirkup, parliamentary reporter for the Globe and Mail. Hello to the three of you.
Hey there. Hi.
Hello. So listen, I'm going to continue this thought, and this is the reasoning behind these negative numbers, according to the Angus Reid Institute. Take a listen. Many pundits and observers have speculated that politics has never been this divisive, with party leaders who seek to exploit differences rather than overcome them. Even Canadians have voiced concern that there is no room for compromise or that their voices aren't heard. This frustration and division appears to have created the perfect conditions for political dissatisfaction, and this has culminated in historically unpopular leadership at the federal level. Again, that's from Angus Reid. Tonda, I'll get you to start us out. What do you make of that reasoning?
I think it's a bit more complicated than that. It's not just that there's political dissatisfaction because politics are polarized. I think politics have become polarized in large measure because essentially, those numbers corresponded, they showed a certain correspondence of the decline of leadership ratings around the time when you saw Stephen Harper in power, Mulcair, Trudeau, sort of that dynamic happening, and they're going forward. But I think what really was going on there, the backdrop is the era of big social media, big data, big tech came along. And that drove all political parties to not just message differently as political parties within the House of Commons or Parliament or on mainstream media, but it drove different styles of fundraising messaging on their own social media channels. And we're all aware of, excuse me, that's my phone. We're all aware of how that changed sort of the way politics is done in the House of Commons, the draw.
All right, you think this lady would turn her phone off? That's I'm not even a professional. My goddamn phone's off, so I don't know what. Mainstream media seems to be getting just even more and more unprofessional by the day. But yeah, it's interesting to see. When you look at Trudeau's approval rating, I can't remember the last prime minister who had 38% disapproval rating, and then Jagmeet Singh's was, I think it was 14. So that's 52% disapproval rate amongst Canadians with the Liberal Party, the Liberal parties, not just one. So I also just want to talk a little bit here about Robert Kennedy Jr. I know there's a lot of he's getting kind of back into the news a little bit after having quite kind of a quiet few months. And this video I want to show here, it's just about him kind of explaining one of his ideas on how we can kind of expose the national United States. I want to have a look at this video, and then we'll talk about it after.
I'm going to put the whole budget on blockchain. That means that every American, anytime they want, will be able to see how every dollar that they paid in taxes is being spent. So, you'll have millions of eyes on our budget. And if somebody is spending, the Pentagon hasn't passed an audit in 30 years. And, nobody's looking at their audits. What if you had 200 million Americans looking at every line and saying, hey, why do they pay $16,000 for a toilet seat? Why are they paying $900 for toilet paper?
Are you not nervous? What gives you the confidence to speak like this towards your country and really put them on the spot like that?
What would be here if you're not going to tell the truth? What's the point?
Amen.
Now, isn't that interesting? Imagine having a politician who puts the entire national debt on blockchain. So not only can you see the number just keep going up and up and up and up at such a rapid pace, you can also see what they're spending it on. Now, I think a lot of people understand that Congress does not spend any, or they don't spend most of their money properly. They kind of just waste our taxpayer money. They give it to other countries. They fund wars. And like Robert Kennedy Jr. said, they buy their toilet paper for $900. And I remember when I was a kid, the city that I lived in, just east of Hamilton, just west of Hamilton, it's one of our mayors got caught buying, it was like a $50,000 in-ground pool in his backyard, and he used taxpayer money to do it. And that's just on a very low level. This is a mayor of not the biggest city even in Canada, and that's what they're doing. So imagine what they're doing here in Hamilton and Toronto and Vancouver and Montreal, not to mention our federal politicians like Justin Trudeau, who actually just reported him and Jagmeet Singh had, I believe it was a combined $1 million in spending. And this isn't not like in terms of the national debt. This is like when they go on trips and when they take private jets everywhere, and they essentially use our money as their expenses, which is not what taxpayer money is supposed to go towards. Miss Health Razor. Hey, nice to see you here. I hope you enjoy the stream. If you have any topic questions you want me to cover, I can definitely do that. If you have any just general questions, anything you want to say in general, it doesn't even have to be about politics. You're more than welcome to. Please don't be shy. But as we, when we going back to Robert Kennedy, his whole candidacy, his whole thing is he wants to expose how corrupt the government really is. And Biden's not going to do, well, he kind of is because he's so blatantly obvious. And same with Trump. But Trump just, he talked a lot about exposing things. He talked about draining the swamp. He talked about ending the wars. He talked about releasing the last 3% of the JFK files. He didn't do any of them. I trust Robert Kennedy Jr. way more than I trust either of those two clowns. So, yeah, that's and I love what George Shenko said too. He's like, "Aren't you nervous about saying things like this?" And then he is a perfect answer where he just said, "Hey, you know what? What's the point of being here if you're not going to expose the truth?" There are much worse things in life than death, that is for sure. And the Kennedy family has a long history of tragic deaths. Let's just put it that way. Okay, so the next thing I want to get into here is And I'm sure you guys all heard this by now, but Donald Trump and Joe Biden are going to be debating. And they're going to be debating on June 27th is the first one, and then September 10th, which is actually my birthday, they'll be doing their second debate. So that's also going to be interesting. And I have something here I just want to show you guys as well. Just some coverage on this here.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. Since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
Well, how's that for a challenge? It's almost certain now that we will see Joe Biden and Donald Trump go head-to-head on the debate stage. CNN's Julia Benbrook joins us now from the White House. And Julia, it looks like there could actually be a couple of debates.
That's right, Cynthia. And President Joe Biden, after weeks of this will they, won't they, he made it clear that he wants to meet his Republican opponent, former President Donald Trump, on the debate stage and sooner than expected. This comes after Trump had said that he would debate Biden anytime, any place. The two today agreed to meet for a June 27th debate hosted by CNN and a September 10th debate hosted by ABC. And this all really developed today after Biden put out that video. And in it, you hear him say, I hear you're free on Wednesdays. That's him taking a jab at Trump, who Wednesdays are his free days from court and that hush money trial that he faces there in New York. Now, that first one happening June 27th, hosted by CNN in the battleground state of Georgia. One interesting note there is that there's not going to be a studio audience. This is something the Biden team has said will make the debate less of a spectacle. Now, Trump, who is, of course, used to these big rallies and speaking in an animated way to big crowds, he said, quote, for excitement purposes, he would prefer a very large venue, and then went on to take a jab at Biden, saying that he thinks Biden is afraid of a crowd. So they're already starting to throw punches here, but we now know that we're going to see an official debate June 27th.
It's so interesting, Julia. It's almost like Trump couldn't say no after that whopper of a challenge from Biden. Now, they both agreed to this new schedule. What are some of the benefits of moving this timeline up?
Well, they've been challenging each other back and forth for quite some time. At some of Trump's rallies, he set up an empty podium and said, I'm trying to get Biden up on a debate stage. So when these specific dates came out, you're right. I think that he had already said any time, any place. Now, as for the benefits for both candidates, I think that it has the potential to weed out the participation of a third-party candidate, someone like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is trying to get on ballots as we speak. This cuts down the time that he has to do that, because in order to qualify for the debates, there's certain criteria, including polling, ballot access, and then, of course, constitutional eligibility. So we'll see if it's just the two of them on stage in the end.
Yeah. And see, that's a good point by her, actually, because that's true. They definitely don't want Robert Kennedy Jr. debating. I mean, if you're Donald Trump, you want to go after Biden and you want to beat him into the ground verbally. Probably physically too, but it's a verbal debate, so let's just keep it there. But, in my opinion, if you're a presidential candidate and you're making a lot of noise, I don't care what your polling numbers are. They screw around with those polls all the time anyway, right? So if you're a presidential candidate, you should be invited to the debates. Now, that being said, it's like, well, what if you have like 20 people running? Well, okay, then at that point, you kind of filter it out who's the most popular. You don't have to look at polls to tell that Robert Kennedy Jr. is a very popular candidate. Right? It's very obvious to anybody with a brain that he should be involved in these debates. I don't care how many states he's on the ballot on yet. The election's not till November. Let him speak. Let him torch both of these clowns publicly, live, on stage, and that way the whole world will see it. Biden can't speak, and Donald Trump does not have anywhere near the brain capacity to keep up with someone like Robert Kennedy Jr. He would run circles around Donald Trump in a debate. It wouldn't even be close. Now, one of the reasons, and I'd like to hear, like, if some of you have a different opinion on this as well, of course, again, please don't be shy. Definitely let me know what you think in the chat. But if if Biden fumbles this debate, right, and it goes really bad, which is one of the other reasons that I think that they're moving this up to June 27th, because they want to have it enough time so that if they see Joe Biden kind of fumbling the bag and he loses really bad to Trump and the Trump keeps going up and up and up in the polls, then I think they're going to pull him. Now, to be fair, I thought they were going to do this already, but maybe the DNC just wants to see what Trump can really, or what Biden can really do in a debate. And if he holds his own or even beats Donald Trump, maybe they'll think about keeping him. But if he gets hammered, I just don't see how they can keep him there. Now, Donald Trump has also talked a lot about draining the swamp. Now, of course, I've mentioned this before, and he has not done it. Who do you think is the best candidate to do that? Do you think it's Biden? No, it's not Trump. I mean, we've seen 4 years of this stuff already, right? So we know they're not going to do it. Who's going to do it? Or who has the best chance of doing it? That's Robert Kennedy. So we'll see. I mean, Robert Kennedy and Trump actually do agree on quite a few things, like the border, like the swamp, like ending wars, et cetera, except Trump was way more of a hypocrite on that. Now, one other thing I wanted to talk about too is, if you're Canadian, if you saw what happened with the decriminalization bill, what's been happening in BC and all these overdose deaths and people doing drugs in parks and in bus stations and all that kind of stuff. I'm from Vancouver, Canada. Oh, nice. Well, nice to see you here. It seems like a lot of my fans are from Western Canada. I'm out here in Ontario, and it's very liberal out here. Let's just say that. But yeah, thanks for joining in. Now, Justin Trudeau, even after this has failed, miserably, might I add, they want to bring this here to Toronto. And Doug Ford, one of the very few good things that he's actually doing is he's coming out and saying, hey, listen, I'm going to fight tooth and nail against this. We've seen the results in British Columbia. Why would you want to bring this here? Right? Like, it doesn't make any sense to want to do what you've done to British Columbia to Ontario and Toronto specifically. Right? It's totally insane to me that they would even be thinking about that after it's failed. And yet Justin Trudeau and the Liberals will continue to talk about, oh, we care about Canada. Oh, we care about Canadians. We want Canadians to prosper. We want them to not suffer. But instead of giving drug addicts help, you want to enable them, which helps nobody, including society. It's absolutely ridiculous to legalize hard drugs. Ebby has just ruined Vancouver. Yeah, and I've heard the Conservatives are actually starting to do way better in the polling out there now too. British Columbia, of all places, right? It's been very like an NDP supportive province, but it seems like it's turning blue not only provincially but federally too. So I'm just going to play a quick video here of I was just talking about the drug decriminalization here in Toronto.
Premier Doug Ford has added his voice to the province's strong stand against decriminalizing drugs. Ford says he will never support it. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris reports.
The flurry of letters began with a note to Toronto's top doctor, sent by Ontario's Minister of Health and Solicitor General.
And we don't want to have a failed experiment happen right here in our Toronto.
Taking a firm stand against Toronto's application to decriminalize possession of small quantities of drugs.
I will fight this tooth and nail.
Next, a missive from the Premier to the Prime Minister, demanding a review of safe supply sites and to require buy-in from provinces, like Justin Trudeau said mattered for decriminalization.
We need to work with all partners, including provinces, on any proposals.
Then the mayor's office got to typing.
I'm releasing a letter
asking other levels of government to collaborate to tackle the drug toxicity epidemic killing 500 Torontonians a year.
I think we need to look at the person rather than itself.
The letter includes a list of things Toronto would like help with.
24/7 crisis beds in the city. Because right now our emergency are inundated with people who are suffering from addictions.
The letter also calls for teamwork on expanded access to treatment for all kinds of substance use, more supportive housing, wraparound social supports and referrals, and evaluation and monitoring to lead to permanent long-term funding. Moise can't say what all of this might cost.
But I can say to you, doing nothing actually costs us more. It affects.
Let me just point something out about that. He doesn't know what it will cost, but doing nothing will cost more. How do you know that if we don't know the costs of what it would take to fix? And that's the problem. Liberal math. They don't know how much it'll cost, but they do know how much it'll cost, or it'll cost even more if you do nothing. And it's like Vancouver literally would have been better off if nothing was done. I'm not saying do nothing, don't help these people. Help them with treatment if they want it. If they don't want it, there's nothing you can do to help them.
Our hospitals, it affects our shelters, it affects all our programming.
Right down to clean up for parks.
A third of the people that are homeless, that are in our shelters, want drug treatment program.
Moise pleads with the province to look at what's working when it comes to safe supply.
The programs we have in Toronto right now has saved thousands of lives. And without it, it would be a lot worse.
Moise doesn't see the need to formally withdraw Toronto's application for decriminalization. He says with the province not on side, it's clear it's an ask not going anywhere. At Queen's Park, Siobhan Morris.
Well, it's pretty damn ridiculous that, again, like they just, it's a failed experiment, and they want to not only double down, they want to bring it everywhere. Start with Vancouver or Toronto next. They'll be in Montreal next. It's insane. Like they just like this whole coalition of a government, if that's even what you want to call it. Using the term government very loosely, they're trying to destroy people of Canada. If you're a middle class person who is not in the donor elite class, they want everything you have. They want you to lose everything that you have. That's why they're enabling people to take these hard drugs. What's the reason to decriminalize fentanyl? Like that makes no sense. It's just it's just disgusting. And you see all these people just on the street, and the government's literally saying, "Hey, continue to ruin your lives." It's flooding the black market. It's in high schools everywhere in Vancouver, in all of British Columbia. It's you just hear all these reports all the time. People finding needles in parks on their lawn. I mean, this is what you were hearing about California a few years ago. And again, who's running California? Oh, it's not a conservative. It's a liberal. A CCP supporting liberal. And we know that. I don't know if you guys saw this, but when Xi Jinping came to San Francisco, this is, I don't know how many months ago this was, but Gavin Newsom cleaned up the streets of San Francisco like that. Homeless people gone, needles gone, trash gone, everything was great. So that the leader of the Communist Chinese Party can come here and be like, wow, this is great, you're doing a good job. As soon as he leaves, it's back to normal again. Boarded up stores, a crashing economy, ridiculous housing prices, homelessness is through the roof. Absolutely going for the middle class. Government is making us pay for and drugs too. Yeah, because they're using tax money to buy it. It's disgusting. It's really, really sad to see. So I just need to take a quick break. I got to get my charger. I didn't think my battery would be dying this fast. I'll be right back.